Hi, today I'm going to share with you one of the most important community development tools that I've used throughout my career. I've used it in a personal context, I've used it in a community context. It's called the Asset Pentagon. Here we go.
So this is the Asset Pentagon. It was introduced to me by Oxfam Cymru back in 2008. It was designed to help individuals recognize their own strengths so they wouldn't become dependent on services. But as I've discovered over the years, it has much wider application. The reason I love this tool is because it changes the conversation from what do we need to what do we already have. Because in my experience, people are far more resourceful than they realize. So whether you're an individual, a team, a business, or a community, this exercise can help you uncover opportunities that you already have access to. You just haven't realized it yet. So the idea is simple. You plot all the strengths that you have access to onto one piece of paper. Then, when you're faced with a challenge, you identify who or what can help, often saving you time, energy, and sometimes money. The map doesn't create a new asset. It simply helps you see the assets that you already have. So today I'm going to walk you through the 5 assets, and then we're going to use them to solve a hypothetical challenge. So let's start with social assets. I always start with social assets because for me, they're the most important of all. Without people, we have nothing, and we need relationships way before we need resources. So I'm going to use some of my own social assets to populate this. So I'm going to put my family and friends, my community networks, my sports clubs, my local charities that I'm involved with. You get the idea. Now, with social assets, one of the mistakes we usually make is assuming that our strongest assets are the ones which are the most closest to us. But actually, some of our biggest opportunities come from what we call weak ties. These are someone we haven't spoken to for a long time. These are connections of connections. These are friends of friends. The next, in order of importance, may I add, are our human assets. These are us. These are the things that we've got. I like to describe them as our head, our hand, and our heart. Our head, our knowledge and experience. Our hand, our skills and abilities. Our heart, our passions, motivations, and drivers. The next assets are our public assets. We'd be quite naive to think that we could solve every challenge on our own. We are part of a big ecosystem, if you like. And so we need to identify what other services can help. And these are public services and amenities that we can access. The next assets are physical assets. These are the things that we need to be able to do the things we want to do. This could include technology such as laptops and computers. This can involve transport such as cars and vans. This could include our office space. The final assets are financial assets. Now, this is where lots of people go wrong because they start here. But if you start with a budget, you already limit yourself. And what you'll find is if you go around all the other assets, you may not even need that finance. So let's put this into practice. Let's hypothetically say that I've just lost my job. There are no jobs in the horizon, and I want to try my arm at starting my own business. Now, my first instinct would be, how much money do I need to do this? But let's just park that at the moment. As I suggested earlier, let's go to our social assets. Who has done this before? Well, that business CEO stands out straight away. Then there's the industry specialists. And then there's the less direct people, people in sports clubs, social clubs, etc. There's bound to be people there that have started their own business. So let's see if there's anyone there that can tell me more about what's involved. Next, I'm going to look at my human assets for my business idea. I've already plotted here what I can do, what I know, and what I'm passionate about. So it's about finding that happy mix of which of those that I'd like to pursue to see if there are opportunities out there for me to start a business. Next, we look at public assets. And in the context of starting a business, what support is already out there, both directly and remember, indirectly, because there may be a support service to help me start a business. But say, for example, if we look at the university, there may be courses that I can attend there or support that I can have from students to help me grow my business. So next, we look at physical assets. What do I already own that can help me start my business? Well, I've already got a laptop. I've got a phone. I've got a car. What else is there that can help me have the infrastructure to be able to start my business? And finally, financial assets. Although I've got a list of ways that I can access money there, and perhaps I do need some startup capital, but now that I've gone through every single one of my assets previously, There may be ways that I don't actually need finance or even as much as I needed before. So suddenly I've gone from being unemployed, thinking I've got nothing, to having a whole wealth of strengths that I can bring together to help me overcome this. So I'm not starting from nothing. I'm starting with a lot more than I realize. So to close, this is a simple exercise that helps you recognize the strengths that you already have at your disposal, and it helps you to connect them in order to overcome challenges. The example I shared with you today was a very simple one-person asset map, but the same principle can be applied to on a much larger scale, on a team scale, on a community scale, because the beauty of this exercise is that if you put two people's asset maps together, you have double the assets. And for every person you add into the mix brings another dimension and another set of strengths. And suddenly when you've got a team or business or community bringing their strengths together, then you've got something really powerful.